Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show radio to open the heart, heal the soul, awaken the consciousness. Benny, it is almost the end of May.
I know, I can't believe it. Huh, mouth. That's funny. I've never actually said that to you live on the air. Like you've said it, but I've never called you the mouth. I respect that.
Benny in the mouth.
Penny in the
It sounds
mouth.
like a name of a band. It sounds like a lot of fun to me.
I think that's a great band name.
I do too.
Benny in the
Yeah.
mouth.
Benny in the mouth.
Well, I mean, you're
I like
singing.
it.
I don't know what I would be doing.
Oh, everything else, magic.
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
You're the magic behind
Okay.
everything.
I'll go with that.
Oh, you're the wizard, you're the magician. You're
Okay.
the you're the alchemist,
The behind
you
the
know?
scenes guy.
Yeah. I got to tell you, this is funny. I went over to pick up a prescription the other day, and the pharmacist, right, is was having kind of fun with me, and he says he got this accent, and he says, "Well, I'm not just a pharmacist, I'm an apothecarian."
Oh, apothecarian.
With the apothecary, right? It's an ancient name for the
Oh, yeah.
pharmacy,
No, I know.
right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really fun. And I said, you got to dress up for that, next time I come in. I don't know what it would be, but
Uh,
you
I don't
know,
know if there'd be any much of a change, really. I mean,
yeah, maybe
the
not.
evolution of pharmacist out of apothecarian maybe no longer a lab coat, maybe,
Yeah,
or
something a little more, yeah, I don't know.
huh.
But anyway, it was kind of fun, Sometimes people out there are, gonna smile at you and have a good time. I don't know. I don't know.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a different way of viewing life, and I think it sounds like it's a good way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too.
So cheers to your pharmacist or
Cheers to my
apothecarian.
my apothecarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can have fun. Yeah, but yeah, no, we're at the end of May
Hmm.
and June is almost
I
here.
know, right?
Wow.
Did you get a
Yeah.
little taste of this warm weather yesterday? Did you get out there and
I
enjoy it?
loved it. Yes, I
Hmm.
did. I loved it. And hopefully there's more of that coming. I don't know.
I've been hearing, of course, your almanac stuff and so forth like that, but like, say it's not going to be too bad. Of course, this is the year we finally doled out money in our pocketbooks. The fiance and I on getting a heat pump, so we actually have air conditioning. And it's like all
Oh,
these years we've been like, braving the sweltering heats and stuff like that, and then it's just like they say it's not going to be as crazy, but it's like, well, at least we did it.
yeah,
You
but
know.
that's probably because of you, because Murphy's Law, right?
Yes, correct.
Like once you do that thing, then it doesn't happen. So thank you for doing that.
Right.
Right,
So if you need a cooler place, Loretta, you are welcome.
I will remember that. Thank you.
No
I'll
problem.
show up.
Well, it's because I got to take care of my mouth.
That's right. You do.
The band's got to
Absolutely.
stay cool.
I love it. I love it. So anyway, let me jump in. I am the owner of Reiki Oasis, located right here in the greater Seattle area. And oh boy, I've got some new offers that are going to be coming up. I'm just gonna, kind of tease a little cliffhanger. You're gonna have to be watching. I got people working behind the scenes and I'm kind of excited. It is a time to reinvent ourselves right now. So I hope that if you're going through creative things that you're getting all the support you need. And then you can find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com. And also, Egypt is coming up. I still have a couple of places left on my sacred, amazing trip to Egypt. Wow, I don't have enough good things to say about it. It's an incredible group of people going this time. We will be the trip is from September 30 through October 14 with a 5-day extension to Petra, Jordan. If you want to get information, send an email to reikioasis@gmail.com and ask for the information. I'll send it to you. I'd love to have you go. Now, we got astrology. We always got something going on in the skies, which is a good thing. We started this week with a Gemini new moon, bringing balance to our body and our soul.
Ooh.
We may find that we need to take a more human approach or detach and allow the nature of spirit to take over. Remember that the twins represent our higher mind and our lower mind, right? We sometimes say the good twin and the evil twin, but really it's this balancing between what is above and what is below. So Kind of take a look at where you're at with that. Recognize where you need to trust more versus planning more. So, right brain, left brain, right? Mercury, the messenger of the gods, is active under this new moon, helping to unearth divine messages that we may need to hear. So, pay attention to signs and synchronicities from the universe. Mercury, in tandem with that new moon, is supporting our communication efforts and projects that we may be working on. Boy, that's appropriate for me. And then today and tomorrow, May 29 to 30, we have, I get to say it, a Mercury Cazimi. It's my favorite word, the Cazimi. It's the Sun conjunct Mercury. And this is going to help activate and recharge our mind, our mental processes, and we may find new inspiration. So if you need a breath of fresh inspiration, it could be today and tomorrow. Or we may be better able to sort through our mental chatter or our mental clutter. It's kind of what I'm a mental thought hoarder sometimes is the way I joke it with myself. So we may start to think differently about something or start to see a new pathway emerge that we didn't think about before. That could be good. Also, today through Sunday, May 29 through the 31st, we have what's called the Aldebaran Gateway or the Silver Gate Portal. When the sun aligns with the royal star, Aldebaran, it activates a portal of high frequency energy called the Silver Gate Portal. And this is the third portal we've had this month, by the way. So there's big changes afoot. This portal beams down energy that can sharpen our minds, seems to be a common theme here, deepen our intuition, and increase our wisdom. Aldebaran is also said to be the resting place for souls right before they reincarnate back on Earth. Yes, I did say that, Joanne. Yes, I did. In this resting place, the soul has a chance to reflect on why it is coming to Earth and the lessons it will obtain. And we can channel this space by connecting with our higher self and soul contract, and remembering every experience is a lesson. Now, I got to tell you, I say this over and over and over again when I do the astrology report, and then I look at who my guest is. Sometimes my mouth falls open. So, like I said, here we are in this portal that might have something to do with the resting place for the souls before they come in. And then I've got Joanne DiMaggio on my show again today, and I love this woman. I have a place on my bookshelf for all of her books. She is an MA, a CHT, she's internationally recognized expert on reincarnation and soul writing with over 35 years of research and practice. She's a dedicated member of Edgar Cayce's Association for Research and Enlightenment since 1987, and she holds a master's in Transpersonal Studies, a spiritual mentor certification from Atlantic University. Joanne has authored at least 7 books I know about, including her latest, Soulmates and Twin Souls, Traveling Companions on the Road to Enlightenment, which explores the profound connections of soulmates, cellmates, she'll tell us about that, and twin souls. She's been a guest on all kinds of radio shows, and of course, right at the top of the list is the original The Red Brown Show. That's why she's here again. And I am fascinated that you're here on this stage, Joanne, in this portal. I'm just like, you'll love it. You'll love
That's
it so
very
much.
synchronistic. Yes, indeed.
Yes, very much. I want to show people that are on the video part. This is your beautiful book, Soulmates and Twin Souls. And I just want to ask you, what inspired you to write this book?
I wasn't intending to write this book, which is ironic because the whole issue of soulmates has come up in all the years I've been doing this work, right? That's like the number one thing that people want to know about. But I wasn't thinking of actually writing a book about it until about 2 years ago, a close relative of mine was visiting and said that he was going through a divorce, and he had only been married like 2 years. And he said that his wife had been reading about soulmates and twin souls and decided he was neither. And
Oh,
so she was going to leave him and go find this soulmate. And I thought to myself, now she knows what I do, right? And I thought, why didn't she come to me and ask me about a soulmate relationship or a twin soul relationship? Because I would have set her straight. Because obviously she had fallen into the whole idea that it's a romantic partner. And I knew from my work that it was much more than that. And so that gave me the idea. And then all of a sudden, you know how these things happen when spirit plants an idea in your head? I suddenly saw it coming up all over. I saw it on a
oh,
TV
yeah.
commercial for paper towels. They're talking about soulmates. There was an article in A.R.E magazine about finding your soulmate after 50. So it was like, okay, okay, I get it. I'll write this book. So that's how the book came about.
I have to tell you that I do think this is like a real big subject. I have clients talking about it all the time, and sometimes I am just like wiping my forehead or rolling my eyes at the ideas that people have.
Yeah.
And I want you to address it because a lot of people do get really caught up in this idea that I've got to be with my soulmate or my twin flame. I've got to be with them. And if I'm not with them, there's something wrong. And um, so talk about that. What is the difference? What is a soulmate? What is a twin flame? Do we have to be with them? What happens if we aren't with them? And what happens if we are? I don't even know if you can answer all that.
Yeah, well, you know what? Soulmate is one of those terms that has been misused, misunderstood over the years. Same thing with old souls and
Yeah.
there's certain terminology that those of us who study this for a living understand the true meaning of it, whereas it's become commercialized to the point where it has an entirely different meaning. I think that the idea of a soulmate goes back thousands and thousands of years. You could see it in ancient literature, even when they're talking about at one point Zeus split the soul of someone, and ever since then we've been looking for this elusive other half.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and really the whole thing about that is that we aren't split in half. We're total whole souls. We don't require another half to make us whole. We already are. That's the way our creator uh, designed us. So a soulmate is someone with whom you've had a past life relationship. Now, that encompasses everybody that you've had a past life relationship with. It covers your parents, your siblings, your children, your relatives, your colleagues, your friends. Anybody that's been with you in a prior lifetime is a soulmate. And it's not at all limited to, it can be a romantic partner. There's no doubt about that, but it isn't limited to that. Um, a twin soul, on the other hand, well, you have many, many, many soulmates, because we travel together, what I like to call a pod, a soul pod. So the same souls that are with you now have been with you since the beginning of time. It's just that we change our roles and we change our gender in each subsequent lifetime. A twin soul, on the other hand, you only have one. You don't necessarily have to be with them in this life. You don't always incarnate together. They could be working with you from the other side. And the difference is with the twin soul, they have the exact same mission in life that you do.
Oh,
So those who know who Edgar Cayce is and know his story, his twin soul was his secretary, Gladys Davis. Because when Mr. Cayce died in 1945, Gladys's sole focus was to save the readings that he had done. He had done like 14,000 readings over the course of his life. Her focus was to save those readings and to preserve the A.R.E. So they shared that common goal. That's the hallmark of a twin soul relationship, that you're on the same page. You're in different bodies, but you're focusing on the same thing. So that's the main difference between the two.
I love that explanation. And yeah, I think you could even say more about it, but the idea, because that'll back up a little bit, the idea of the soul pod,
Mhm.
and also that all of the people, so these are good, bad, and otherwise, right? Like
Right.
if we take a look at our past lives, like I don't know how many past lives we live, honestly, lots. And so there could be people that from a past life that um, we didn't resolve things with, or that um, they murdered us, or we murdered them, or things like that.
Right, you've got this unfinished
Yeah.
business going on from another lifetime. So when you plan this life in your pre-life planning session, you decide, well, I'm going to work. I have some issues from 1,000 years ago, let's say, that I didn't finish. I didn't resolve that karma. And it's been sort of on the back burner. And you can't really move on until all of that's been worked through. So you decide, well, my next life, it's perfect. It's perfect in every way. It's perfect for the socioeconomic conditions I'm going to be born into, the parents I'm going to choose. You plan this whole thing out, which can change at any time because you've got free will. But anyway, you make this preliminary plan, and then the souls in your little soul pod say, I'm going to come in with you in that lifetime. And you say you want to work on abandonment. Great. When I come in with you at some point in your life, I'm going to abandon you. So, it all
Thanks.
works. Yeah, exactly. In resolving karma, and sometimes karma can be a good thing. I mean, people mistakenly believe that karma is always something bad, and there's no such
Mhm.
thing as bad karma or good karma. It simply is cause and effect, right? So it's you working out issues that you didn't quite finish, and your soul family is saying, I'll come in and help you with that. And so the circumstances in which they come in, you could perceive of it as positive or negative. It doesn't matter because in the end, it's all about you learning the lesson that you decided you wanted to learn. And that's really their role in however capacity they come in.
I want to point out to the listening audience that your book is based on case studies. Like
Right,
you actually do the work with people, right?
right.
And I find that fascinating. Um, so you take people on past life regressions, and I'm just going to throw this out. I might as well do it now. And you do it via Zoom also.
I
Yeah.
do. I do. Ever since COVID, I had an office here in Charlottesville. But once COVID hit, that was the end of that. And then a colleague of mine said, you can do these on Zoom. And I said, how in the world do you do them on Zoom? And actually, Loretta, what I have found is that it's better. And the reason
Wow.
it's better is because people are in their own home and they're very relaxed, very comfortable. They're
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
lying on their own beds, and it helps them to really feel like they're in a safe place. They're familiar with what's around them. There's no anxiety other than just the usual. But and then I'm able to work with people from all over the world, thanks to this
Oh,
technology.
fun.
So if we could credit COVID with anything, I'd say that would be my number one uh, gratitude for introducing me to be able to work with people this way.
Oh, I love what you just said, and I'm going to say what she said, ditto, because COVID did throw me onto Zoom in order to not shut down, and it has opened my global community, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, international actually. So yeah, I agree with you. It's brought some things in. So in your book here, I've got a couple of questions based on what you said, and well, we won't get to all the questions. That's just how it's going to be. You said something so interesting to me, and I want to pull it out because I know that some of the people listening are going, "What did she just say?" So, when we are, I call it the in-between space, in between lifetimes.
Mhm.
So, in this in-between space, so we've passed out of a life, right?
Right,
And then you said we're making a plan.
right.
Okay, so we're going to make a plan, and and talk a little more about that. And then at that point, there are other souls in our that are like, yeah, sure, I'll come and be your your antagonist or your catalyst or whatever.
Right.
And then you said something about choosing your parents. I got all of that, and I think in 3 words you said. So could you please tell us how does this work?
Well, I did a whole study on that as well, based on the remarkable work of Dr. Michael Newton. You know, he had done a lot of work in the area of life between lives, and I had read all of his books. And there were some things in his books that didn't sort of line up with the Cayce teachings, and so I became curious, and so I designed my own research project, and that developed into my book. I did it to myself again, and basically I took people to the past life, and then we go into the afterlife. And I have them describe to me what the afterlife is like, what happens when you're
Oh,
there. And the major portion of that is going in front of what we call the Council of Elders, which is the equivalent of what I would say would be like guidance counselors at school. So, you know, you're planning, I think of Earth as a school,
yeah.
and we're planning each lifetime, we have a curriculum that we're following. This is what I want to learn. And you set that up. So you're working with the Council of Elders. They're looking at your past lives. They're thinking, well, you know what? You didn't quite finish this, so you're going to need to repeat that, or you failed that, or whatever. And you go, okay, I'm going to work on X, Y, and Z in my next lifetime. So you go about, this is what I want to do. You choose your parents, you choose the two souls that you believe are best suited to help you achieve what your soul's mission is going to be. So those two are the only, like, you wouldn't be able to learn what you learned from anybody else. It had to be this mother and this father. Now, whether they are your parents in good standing, whether they're just your biological parents and they're not in the picture, whether you're adopted or whatever, there's all kinds of tiers to this, right? But you choose these people. So when you come in, you know what is going to be your socioeconomic background. You're going to know what nationality you're going to be, what ethnic background you're going to be, what religion you're probably going to be raised in, what country you're probably going to live in, whether you're going to be wealthy or not wealthy, who your family is going to be, your biological family. So you have it all set into motion, and you state what your purpose is going to be. You go to your meet up with the souls that are on the other side at the same time that you are, and you go, hey, you know what? I want to do I want to do X, Y, and Z. And they'll go, okay, well, I can best serve you as your best friend. I can best serve you as your spouse. I can best serve you as your favorite cousin. And then they come in with you with that purpose in mind. So even if even if what they do to you is hurtful, if you feel if it's traumatizing or you're wounded in some way because of your interactions with them, if you step back and think, they're here to help me learn a specific lesson, because that's what this is all about, is that curriculum again. So you're at school, you're learning this lesson. The whole goal is to pass that lesson. And they're here to help you do that, whether they're supportive of you and encouraging you, or whether you feel like they're holding you back, which is where the cellmates comes in, which we were talking about earlier. So everybody has a role that they're playing, but at any given moment in time, you can change the scenario because you have free will. So if you don't like the direction you're going, you could choose not to go in that direction. If you don't resolve the karma, it'll just come up again. So that's why I always tell people, get it over with, just do it, and then put it behind you so that you can move on, and continue on your growing awareness, so you can return to the creator that way.
Um, Thank you for that. That was great and very clear. And it's in alignment with what my experience has been with that whole thing.
Mhm.
Also, you answered a question I was going to ask, like, do we have to fulfill that or do we not? And I know you wrote another book about, Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
And I'll just have you say what happened there real quick with that.
Sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Edgar Cayce did a reading on a baby boy when he was 2 days old and said that he was the reincarnation of both Thomas Jefferson and Alexander the Great. This is unusual to have, like two big famous past lives. But he also said this soul can do for the world what Jefferson did for this country. Now imagine you're 2 days old and the great seer of all time is telling you this. Uh, so he lived with the Cayces for the first 8 years, 8.5 years of his life until Mr. Cayce died. So because he was Gladys Davis's nephew, so he was at the A.R.E. He was living with Mr. Cayce. He was being tutored by Mr. Cayce. So everything was going in that direction of fulfilling this great prophecy. But then Mr. Cayce died. TJ's parents didn't raise him the way Cayce had specifically said they needed to raise him. He became a recluse. He, kind of a yuppie, hippie kind of guy, and did not fulfill that destiny that Cayce foresaw for him. But it was because his soul decided he went on a different trajectory. Okay. So he was on the path when he was with Mr. Cayce, then Cayce dies. And then nobody picked up the mantle to guide him.
Right.
And he just went off the rails. And so he never did for the world what Jefferson did for this country. I always maintained, knowing him in his later years, that I think what Cayce meant by that was not politically the
Right.
Jefferson thing, but that I think it was having to do with the fact that he knew the Cayce material inside and out, and having been tutored by him and growing up with him, all that knowledge that Cayce had was being instilled into this little boy. And I think that's what because I've always maintained that if everybody followed the Cayce material, that the Cayce readings and the Cayce teachings, that we would have a completely different world
Oh,
than
yeah.
what we have now. And I think that's what he would have been instrumental in. And certainly knowing him as I did, it wasn't the Jefferson life that he was interested at all in. It was the fact that he was part of the Cayce legacy. So yeah, there's an instance where free will put him and everybody else around him on a completely different trajectory.
Wow. Yeah, and I recommend that book to people because it brings out a lot of things. And for me, just listening to what you had to say, I'm like, the soul goes from incarnation to incarnation. And so when we are making that choice with that great counsel, right? Like this is the body, this is the culture, these are my parents, this is, the socioeconomic situations. Like you can really see how yeah, he wasn't Thomas Jefferson. He was the soul that had been that. And so there would be that impulse within him of some kind. The idea of free will, though, I think is an important aspect to this whole thing,
Mhm.
because a lot of people feel like they are victims of something, or they're predetermined, or excuse me. We'll take a little break here just in about 3 seconds. But also this idea of what am I here to do, Loretta? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Right. And so on that, we're going to take a little station break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about that. And then I want Joanne to tell us what a cellmate is when we get back. So anyway, this is Loretta Brown, my wonderful guest, Joanne DiMaggio. We're talking about her book, Soulmates and Twin Souls. And we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Cool. All clear, ladies.
It's time that you are heard, and I don't mean in just a conversation. I mean really heard. Imagine hosting your very own radio program on Alternative Talk 1150. Talk about being heard. Call 425-653-1150 right now to learn how affordable it can be to host your own radio show. Time slots are going fast, so take hold of this chance by dialing 425-653-1150. Alternative Talk. We have an opportunity waiting just for you.
Energy is powerful. It's all around us, mysterious, full of potential. Directing positive, healing energy to raise your vibrational rate through Reiki can change your life. Reiki Master Loretta Brown has relieved stress, sadness, anger, and even helped clients lose weight, stop smoking, and end sleep disorders. Worldwide, people have sought out Reiki Oasis. If you want help with your dis-ease, visit ReikiOasis.com. Harness life's energy. Visit ReikiOasis.com today.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Miss a show on KKNW? Check out 1150kknw.com for podcasts of many of our programs. That's 1150kknw.com.
Sorry, just wanted to let you know coming back. All right, stand by.
So this, welcome back. Sorry, that's not a good way to start. Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show with my guest, Joanne DiMaggio, and we're talking about her book, Soulmates and Twin Souls. Just a reminder that this show is archived. You can download it for free, listen to it anytime you want at the KKNW 1150 AM archives for the original Loretta Brown Show. And we're on all the social media platforms. We're on YouTube, X, Megaphone, iTunes, Podcast One, Spotify. You get the idea. We're out there. So please go find the shows and find the previous shows with Joanne, because I've interviewed her a couple of times. It's always great to have her on the show, and lots of really great information. Before the break, we were having a great conversation. We're going to continue. Trying to figure out which one of my questions I want to ask first. I'm going to go with what is it when people come and they say, why am I here? And how does that past lives help us with that question?
Well, it gives you all these answers, about the whys of it all. Why did you choose your parents? Why are you in the type of relationship you're in? Why? What are your karmic lessons? Looking at patterns. So the regression will really help you zero in on what your soul's mission is, and most people can define their soul's mission in like one sentence. And Cayce called it your ideal. Like, you set an ideal for this lifetime, and then everything is measured against it. So mine is to empower and inspire through the written word. So everything that I do is based on that ideal. Yeah, that's almost the number one question people are asking me when they come for a regression. They want to know, why am I here? They actually do know, but they just want some confirmation of it, or they want to know what the origin of it is, or what direction should they go, and that's especially true of healers. I get a lot of people that say, I feel like I should be doing some healing work, but something is stopping me. And so the regression will go back to when did this start? What's the root cause of this? And so oftentimes they were persecuted in a prior lifetime because of doing healing work. And so subconsciously they remember that when they go to do it in this life. So it becomes this wall, this obstacle, like, oh, I don't want to do that. I have some fear attached to it. Well, the fear is from the other lifetime. So we kind of work through that, and then they're able to pursue that that mission in this lifetime. So it helps to understand. And most, you know what? How many people go through life and never have the answer to that question? They really don't know why they're here. They don't know what they're working
Yeah.
on. They don't know what they're doing. And regression work really helps with that.
I think that I think it's really good for people to have a sense of direction or purpose, or like you say, just at least some idea. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I empower, inspire through the written word. What is great. It's really, really great. So I'm just encouraging people to, you know, tap into that a little bit deeper. Um, yeah, because I understand that. I want to ask, what is a cellmate?
Aha.
Cellmate.
Cellmate, C-E-L-L, and I don't mean biological cell, I mean prison cell. um, it is a soulmate. They come cloaked as a soulmate, uh, but they have a very different agenda. They keep you emotionally imprisoned. That's about the best way to put it. So they come in as a soulmate, you think they're a soulmate, uh, but then, and they could be a spouse, a friend, a relative, anybody, but they tend to keep their thumb down on you. They'll sabotage you. They'll keep you from really being all that you were meant to be, and they'll do it in a very passive aggressive type of way. And their job, they're throwing roadblocks, so that either they stop you and see whether you're strong enough to break through that on your own, or you give into it. And if you allow them to continue to manipulate you, and to hold you back, and to cause you any kind of harm emotionally, mentally, whatever, uh, then you're just going to have to repeat this in some other. So they're they give you a test. It's a matter of whether you recognize it for what it is, and it's often very hard to do because you often very much love this person,
Yeah.
right? And you don't understand why is this happening with them? Why are they treating me like this? Why do I feel this way when I'm around them? Um, and then it's up to you to, if you can recognize it, know where it's coming from, know what the lesson is in it for you, work through it, then you'll be free of it and you'll break out of that cell that they have put you in.
Do you have an example of that, either the cellmate, soulmate, or the twin soul from your book, from your case studies? Anything of interest that you would like to share with the audience? Because I love case studies because it brings it home, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I want to say this before you talk. Yeah, I got a couple of cellmates, real big ones, in
I
my
do
life,
too.
and
I
never called them cellmates, and I just love that so much. I'm like, yeah, that's it.
yeah.
And the love and the passive aggressive, and they're always like, well, I love you, honey, but don't be doing that, right? That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. There were quite a few husband and wife situations, and one in particular where she uh, would always give in to whatever her husband wanted. So she would do whatever he
Ah,
wanted, whether she didn't think it was right or not. She always had some fear attached to, if I don't do this, something bad's going to happen to me. Well, he had been her father in a prior lifetime, and he actually had been with her in multiple lifetimes. And in every one of those, he killed her.
oh,
There was one and she always had a lot of throat trauma, so
mhm.
she was dealing with that. As a matter of fact, she had thyroid surgery and had like 5 nodes removed or something, and it corresponded to the 5 lifetimes in which she died from trauma to her throat. One time
Oh,
he had put a rope around her neck and dragged her from a horse. Uh, but the last lifetime they had together, she was his daughter, young daughter, and was jealous of her abilities and her psychic abilities, and he choked her to death. And so in this lifetime, she has this feeling like if I don't do what he's going to tell me to do, I'm going to die. So that's a subconscious thing that's been playing out. So he's been manipulating her uh, throughout their whole marriage. But when she found all this out and she put it together, she pieced it together, then she realized, what the pattern was. Patterns are so important to
Yeah.
recognize and figure them out. And then she decided that was it. And so that was the end of that marriage. There are others that dealt with financial manipulation, and that also went back to multiple lifetimes where that pattern's in place, where they did it over and over and over again. Or one who stopped the wife from really fulfilling her her artistic desires. So those are all examples where I think that they might still be in those relationships if they hadn't really taken the time to try to figure out where did they originate, what's the pattern here, and what can I do to end this pattern. So there are many. I had one where it's a sibling relationship, brother and sister. And they've been together since, he said, the beginning of time, but there's always a competitive streak going on between the two of them. And so that continued into this lifetime. So there's one story after the other of how these patterns are repeating themselves, and that how they have these aha moments when they do the regression, and then that actually opens them up to a solution that they didn't really have the courage to follow before they actually did the past life regression and seeing where this started.
I think this is wonderful work. When you were talking about, okay, the woman who's married to this man, and yeah, she's running this trauma, this program, past life trauma, I guess you could call it. I don't know if there's a code for that in the ICD, but where I have to do what he says or something terrible will happen, he'll kill me, right?
Mhm.
I think that finding the origin of that, having that aha of where that came from, is incredibly liberating, enlightening, and empowering, right? Because then from that perspective, you can really take a look at what is actually happening right now, right? Like, is that happening right now? Like, it's not really happening right now. And to be able to make a different choice or to pivot in a different way, I think that's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also get the idea that once that aha is made, like it's changed. I'll just say this one woman, because I know that you've done that with a lot of people, but it's changed them. It's really changed the trajectory of their life and how they show up in the world. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I get so many emails from people after a regression telling me that they feel like a burden has been lifted from their shoulders that was there for years, and they didn't know what to do about it. You could go to traditional therapy year after year after year, and they never get to the core. They never get to they'll treat the symptoms, but they don't get to the core issue. But if and you don't need to believe in reincarnation
Yeah.
for this to
Right.
work. That's the other part of it. I mean, I know that in the West, there's a smaller percentage of people who are open to this. Even within my own family, they roll their eyes at what I do. So I'm
Me too.
I'm totally aware of that. But I also know from the work that I have done that it's the most healing modality that I've ever experienced. That with the soul writing that I also do. I think we've been given the tools. It's like we're not here helpless. We have our little backpack that we brought to school with us, and in that backpack are all these tools that Spirit has given us to be able to find the answers that we're looking for. I mean, just
Yeah.
because we come here with amnesia and don't remember, we kind of forget about everything that we knew, and then piece by piece it comes back to us. But there are people here that are here to help you put those pieces together and finish that unfinished business that you brought in with you.
Do you have any advice for somebody who might be listening who's like, wow, I'd kind of like to explore that, but like where do they begin? Like, how do you know if you're in a soulmate, cellmate, or if you got one of those in your life? Like, I think there's indicators. And then if they're not ready for a past life regression, what are some things people can do?
That's a good question, Loretta. First of all, I think everybody knows on some level what the deal is with the relationships that they're in,
Yeah.
because they may not say it out loud, but in the quietness of the night, they put the pieces together and they go, you could see patterns like, why is this happening to me all the time? Why am I always attracting these kinds of relationships?
Yeah, the patterns.
Why do I always
Yeah.
pick these kind of jobs that make me so miserable? So there's all of that. People who don't want to do regressions, there's other ways of doing it. The soul writing that I teach is one way. Soul writing is a written form of meditation so that you can go into a meditative state. Make sure you surround yourself with white light and say a prayer before you do it. And then you can have a conversation with spirit. You can ask any question you want. There's always an answer available to you. So I always encourage people to do that. You can also use the resonance method of past life recall, which is basically looking at the things in your life that you resonate to. And you can be like a detective, put on your little detective hat, say, oh, gee, I really have an aversion to this culture or this kind of, or I really am fascinated with this time period. I mean, that's how I started. From the time I was a child, I was fascinated with anything to do with 18th century American history. I just couldn't get enough of it. And for a little girl on the south side of Chicago, this was not normal. We have hints as early as childhood but you've got to pay attention. You've got to turn off all the noise that's going on
Yeah.
around you and really do some introspective work because the answers are there. They're all within you. All the past lives you've ever had are stored in your soul, and you could pull them out at any given time, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with a regression, although, obviously I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But if you have any fear bases around that, there's certainly other ways of doing it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. People don't actually have to believe in all this to give it a try. I sometimes feel like if we're willing to be just a little bit curious, and yes, be safe, be with professional people, right? Bridie Murphy. Anyway, that's another
That was
story.
the first book that I read about reincarnation. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. But I think that if we're just curious, and I love this idea of what are you resonating with? Um, when I was a little girl, I always wanted to put a comb in my head and put a thing over it like the Spanish ladies,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And the other thing was it was Egypt. Egypt, Egypt, Egypt. When can I go live at the temple? There's no temples.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was issues, right? So I'm still messed up because of that, but I'm working on it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I love this idea of just begin this exploration of maybe just curiosity, open the mind a little bit and kind of look around. I think we do know. I actually do think we know.
Mhm.
And I find it, like I said, I keep using the word fascinating, but I love it. Now, your secondary title here, your book is Soulmates and Twin Souls, Traveling Companions on the Road to Enlightenment.
Mhm.
Talk to me about enlightenment.
Well, that's the bright light that goes off when you put the pieces together and you understand the way the universe operates, because that's really the big part of it. What is the soul's journey from the beginning of time when we were all created at the same time, which is why I say there are no old souls because we're all the same age. Uh, we've had many, 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 many past lives, obviously. Each one of those has given us additional information. All
Yeah.
right. So we've you start out, like if you want to use the school analogy, you start out in preschool and then you're graduating up to PhD level. And it isn't that some are new to this and some are not new to this. It's just how many lifetimes have you actually had and how much wisdom have you gained from those lifetimes. So that's a cumulative effect, right? So some people, some souls don't want to come back very often. And so they have less experience on the earth plane, where you have others that are gluttons for punishment. And we come back over and over and over again. That's why I always say old souls are just slow learners. We didn't learn it, so we just have to come back and figure it out. But yeah, so that's the enlightenment part of it. It's like we're on this road, we're heading back to where we originally came from, right? It's all about going back to the creative force. And so but we've opted to learn, because we're all, you've heard this, spiritual beings in a physical body.
Yeah.
And you only learn what you can learn on the earth. A lot of these lessons cannot be learned in spirit. They're all based on physicality, on the dimension that we're in on this planet. And like Mr. Cayce said, whatever is started on the earth has to end on the earth. So any lessons that you've started here, you've got to finish here. So that's the road that we're on. That's why I call it the road to enlightenment, because that's the goal at the end. Obviously, that bright white light at the end that we'll walk into and be done with be done with our education here on earth.
Yeah, I love that. And I have a question. Someone asked me this the other day. When a soul passes away, how soon do they come back? Is that unique and individual to each soul? Can they come back right away? Do they have to wait, 7 years? What?
Everything that I have read in my research, it's usually a 50 to 200 year wait, earthly years wait, right? However, if the person commits suicide, if they are prematurely killed, like murdered or in a war or something like that, they'll come back immediately. Immediately.
Okay.
Do
Wow.
not pass go, do not collect $200. You just come back right away. And reason being is because it's like dropping out of school. You didn't finish. You got to go back and finish.
Oh, that's
So
fascinating.
especially with suicides, that really those folks are gonna face the same problems, same issues, and it's gonna be harder the second time around. That's why I encourage people is stick with it, finish it up this time around, so that you could put that behind you. But that's usually what it is. Now, you could wait longer than that. But so if you figure that we've started at the beginning of time, you could see how many lifetimes you've chosen. And yeah, it's up to you really, because you wait until you find the exact right circumstances to come in, the right people to come in with. So it's a beautiful plan, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you just, it's perfection, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I know I'm going to come back. I love it when I get clients who say to me, I'm never coming back. This is the end of the line for me. I'm done. And I go, really? You've worked on every issue possible. I'm not coming back. And then I thought, well, I'm glad you're not. I am. I know that for a fact. I'm not done. So, and I think about that a lot the older I get. Like, how much did I accomplish in this life? And am I going to pick it up when I come back? And then I think, the whole idea of being born again and going through childhood and going through school again to get to the point where you're an adult, where you can actually do the work that you've come here to do. It's a little daunting to think about it that way. But yeah, that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah. I kind of want to spend some time on the tropical planet before I come back.
Yeah. I was just telling my husband the other day, I said, when you're in the afterlife, you can design your home in the afterlife however you want it to be. So if you want to be in a cabin in the woods, it can be that way. So I was asking him what he wanted, and because I knew what I wanted in terms of, and that's what everybody in my research project told me, that they chose to be in a place that was familiar to them. So that could be your old home when you were a child. It could be your tropical island. It could be whatever you imagine it to be. So that's something to look forward to.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we are down to the end of the show. And Joanne DiMaggio, tell people where they can find you, and then final last words in about 15 seconds.
Okay, well, you could find me on my website, obviously. It's joannedimaggio.com. And if you're interested in a regression or soul writing, that's on there. I have a blog. You could sign up for my monthly newsletter. And that's where I share about any coming research projects that I'm doing, if you want to volunteer for those. Also, all my speaking engagements are on there as well. And my last thoughts would be simply what I said at the beginning, that I really want people to come away knowing that you are whole unto yourself, that you do not need another soul to make you whole. Don't look outside yourself. It's all within.
I love that. Joanne DiMaggio, from my heart to yours, so much love. Thank you so much. I know we're Soul Pod sisters. And
Yeah.
Benny Mathers, I know you're part of my Soul Pod. You're the best ever. Thank you so much.